Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the meeting of the Planning Development Management Committee on Thursday, the 23rd of June, 2022. This is very much a hybrid meeting, and we have officers and some members joining us remotely via Microsoft Teams. I will now ask Lindsay McMahon to take a roll call.
Thank you, Convener. If members can please just indicate that they're present for the recording. Convener.
Present.
Vice Convener.
Present.
Councillor Alphonse.
Present.
Councillor Blake. If you just remember and use your microphone for, sorry, that's okay just now. Councillor Bolton.
Present.
Councillor Van Sweden.
Present.
Substituting for Councillor Cook. Councillor Copeland.
Present.
Councillor Crockett. Councillor Cormie. Councillor Houghton.
Present.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Present.
Councillor McRae.
Present.
And Councillor Thompson.
Present.
Can I just check if we've got any members substituting for Councillor Crockett, maybe on Teams? No. Okay, so 12 members are present. I'll just quickly read out the housekeeping as we've got members of the public in attendance today. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin, I would like to advise you of some general housekeeping matters. In the event of a fire or other emergency requiring an evacuation, you will hear a continuous single-tone klaxon. You should proceed immediately out of the building via the designated exit routes, which are out via the door through which you entered, and head back to the main staircase and down to the ground floor. On exiting the building, you should proceed to the Arts Centre on Queen Street, where we will wait until clearance is given to return to the building. The closest toilets are located in the corridor behind the lifts off the main stairwell. It would also be appreciated if mobile phones could either be switched off or put on silent mode. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Ms. McMahon. If remote members and officers wish to speak, please use their raise hand function and this will be monitored. A further reminder to all at this meeting, it is being recorded, although it's not being webcast, it is being recorded. If members and officers in the chamber could ensure that their microphones are in the correct height when speaking and they speak into them as directly as possible. This will assist with the sound quality of the recording. In the event of a vote, if members in the chamber could switch their microphones on to declare their vote, this will ensure it will be picked up on the webcast. As this is a quasi-judicial members are reminded that they should not leave the room or meeting during consideration of the applications. Moving on, 1.1 is the motion against officers' recommendations. That's just for noting. 2.2, determine of urgent business, none. 3.1, declarations of interest and connections. Nope, none on. Thank you. Moving on, minutes from previous meetings, 26th of May. Do we have approval of the minutes? Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Committee planner, any questions on the committee planner? No. Thank you. Moving on to the first application, and just for everyone's information, application 7.2, the detailed planning permission at 56 Park Road has been withdrawn, so we only actually have the two applications this morning. And moving on to the first agenda item, 6.1, detailed planning permission for the installation of a flue to the existing mechanical extraction system to the side east elevation of 7 Langstand Place, Aberdeen. Robert Ford's planning officer. Can we have Mr. Forbes?
Yes, thank you, Convener. Good morning, members, and good morning, Convener. Yes, this is an application for detailed planning permission for relatively minor alterations to an existing hot food takeaway. So I'll just take you through my presentation. Hopefully, if you just bear with me, I'll try and get the screen to share, and hopefully that should work. And hopefully my presentation should be coming up any minute now. If you can just let me know if that's coming through now.
We
I'll
can
just
see it,
continue.
thank you.
Great, thanks very much. So yeah, this is an application for planning permission reference number 220509, city centre site, which is just located to the south of Union Street, between Crown Street and D Street, so very central. The front, this is the existing front elevation of the building, so it's a 2.5-storey traditional building. What is proposed is actually a very small works to the east gable of the building. So that's the north elevation as existing. That's what's proposed. So it's what is proposed is a galvanized metal flue being attached to the midpoint of the gable, extending from the upper part of ground floor level to terminate at roof level at this point here. So obviously what's proposed is, you see it on the east elevation here. So this is the duct which currently exists at ground floor level associated with the hot food takeaway. So that just disperses into the air at that point. And as proposed, obviously what the duct will remove odours to this point here. So enabling improved dispersal of fumes. As it stands, obviously the site's very constrained in terms of its position in the city centre, and there's no impact on key views. As you can see here, this is Union Street running this way. This is Crown Street, so you're not. This is a key view in Crown Street Conservation Area. There'll be no impact on it because you can see it from there. This is the front elevation as it stands, and this is an adjacent listed building, which is obviously has some windows facing towards the site at this point here, running up and down the gable. But obviously the flue is terminating on the elevation here, and it's only fleetingly visible. Really, it's a very, very modest structure. You'd hardly see it really, and this is the most you would see of it, which is on the east gable of the premises. What you see here is actually a flue of a building to the rear of the site on D Street. So that's an existing flue, and the proposed flue would run up the gable, this gable here, and terminate at that point here, where the chimney stack is. So essentially, it's in terms of planning evaluation, obviously the main issues are really to do with design. Policy D1 design, it's considered that the flue is suitably designed for its siting and wouldn't affect the principal elevation, and very well screened in terms of the streetscape. So there's no concerns in terms of D1. In terms of policy D4, which is historic environment, as I've said, there's no impact on key views within the conservation area, and although it's a modern feature, there's no real adverse impact in terms of the setting of adjacent listed buildings or the character of the conservation overall because of its secluded position. So as I said, in terms of other planning matters, obviously there's been objections raised, but because there's no change of use issue here and there's no new mechanical plant being proposed, so there's no risk of noise intrusion. And in fact, that's a matter that's been considered by the environmental health consultee, who have no observations on the proposal. So obviously for those matters, obviously it's been recommended approval unconditionally, and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. Is there any questions for Councillor Bolton?
Thank you, Convener. It was probably for environmental health. It was just in terms of the maintenance of the extractor fan, because sometimes to start with, they're very efficient. And I don't know if there was any discussion when they looked at this about the maintenance of it, because that's obviously extremely important in terms of the residential properties next door.
Mr. Forbes?
Yeah, if I can clarify, there is no new plant or machinery proposed as part of this application. The agent has confirmed that they're simply using the existing plant and machinery. So the flue would simply connect to the existing machinery. So the maintenance issue doesn't arise itself in terms of this application. Environmental health officers have confirmed that there's actually a betterment really in terms of this proposal, because what it does is change the point of dispersal of odours from the ground floor level to a higher part of the building where there would be an improvement. So for those reasons, there's no concerns, and maintenance doesn't really come into it, because that's an existing issue for the existing hot food takeaway.
Councillor Bolton.
Thanks. Could I just as well confirm, in terms of the windows that are side on to that building, are they opening windows? Are they, do we know?
Sorry, is that the windows on the side elevation of the adjacent tenement? I'll just shift the screen up. So sorry, these windows here.
The side ones on the listed building. Those
Listed
thin
building,
ones, yeah.
right, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I think it's the case that the upper parts of those panes may open. It's not clear, but obviously there's an existing, as I've said, there's a betterment in terms of the fact that the odours are currently terminating at this point on the building, which is a lower point. So the higher the point of termination, the better the dispersal of odours there would be in terms of odour. So whether the window's open or not, I suppose is an existing situation again.
Okay, I suppose probably if it was terminating at your window that you might feel there wasn't a betterment, but that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Forbes.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Any further questions? No one online? Okay, no more further questions. Thank you. I'm noted to move the officer's recommendations for approval. Is anyone otherwise minded? Are we all in agreement?
Agreed.
Seeing lots of nodding heads. Thank you very much. And moving on to the next agenda item, detailed planning permission for the erection of 2 dwelling houses with associated works at 19 South Avenue, Aberdeen. And the planning officer is Dineka Baresa. If you could give your report, thank you.
Okay, thank you, convener. Can everyone see the slides? Yeah, okay. Right, this application is for the construction of 2 detached dwellings and associated works and would constitute a curtilage split at the existing residential curtilage of 19 South Avenue. The site is located on the corner of North Deeside Road and South Avenue and was previously occupied by a single 1.5-storey detached dwelling, which was demolished in 2014. The site is currently vacant and is cleared for development. The current proposal is brought before you today as the Cults Beeldside Mill Timber Community Council lodged an objection, and a total of 25 members of the public objected to the proposed scheme. All matters raised are set out in detail in the accompanying committee report and can be found on pages 54 and 55 of today's agenda pack. Material considerations raised can be summarised under the following categories. 1 is design scale, massing and impact on the character of the area. 2 is residential amenity, and 3 is transport and access. There are no objections from roads development management, environmental health or waste management. The site has a very long planning history. In 2014, planning permission was granted for the construction of a single replacement dwelling, which was not implemented and has now lapsed. This application was followed by a total of 4 further applications in 2016, 2018 and 2 in 2020, all for 4 residential units in a variety of combinations, either in a single block of flats as 4 detached properties, or in its latest iteration as a block of 3 flats and a single dwelling behind. All 4 applications were refused by Planning Committee, with the last 3 dismissed on appeal by a reporter of the Scottish Government Planning Appeals Division. Across all 4 of these applications, the grounds for refusal were related to the inappropriate scale, massing and form of the proposals, the adverse impact on the character of the area, the overdevelopment of the site and overbearing and adverse impact on the adjacent residents at 21 South Avenue. The planning history of the site is a relevant and important material consideration in determining this current planning application. So this current application is for 2 detached dwellings with a 3-storey building fronting onto North Deeside Road and a 2-storey building set behind the first one. This proposed layout and general form of the buildings are principally the same as that previously considered and refused by Planning Committee as part of application 2016-30 DPP, which was subsequently dismissed on appeal by an independent reporter of the Scottish Government as well. It is considered that this current planning application does not suitably address the reasons for refusal of this previous application and therefore raises similar issues in relation to its impact on the character and appearance of the surrounding area through the creation of a new building line between dwellings fronting onto North Deeside Road and properties further to the south facing out onto the Deeside Way, overdevelopment of the site, adverse visual impact due to the general form, scale and massing of the building on Plot 1 and its prominent position on the junction of North Deeside Road and South Avenue, which will be contrary to the general character of the surrounding area and its overbearing impact on the residential amenity of 21 South Avenue. In addition, it is considered that insufficient private garden ground would be provided to the front dwelling, thus not providing an acceptable level of residential amenity for future occupants. It is for these reasons that today's application is recommended for refusal, with all reasons for refusal detailed in the accompanying report on pages 66 and 67 of today's agenda pack. So I will now take you through the slides. Just give me a second. So the first is the location plan. So you can see North Deeside Road here and South Avenue here with a site outlined in red. As you can see, to the west and to the south is the lower density area, with a higher density area leading to the village centre of Cults, starting from Cults Court to the east. It also demonstrates the two existing building lines. The first one is kind of fronting onto North Deeside Road, and the second one is sitting behind it with properties facing onto the Deeside Way. Plot 1 would be located roughly next to the neighbouring property at number 21, whereas plot 2 would be located between 17A South Avenue here and plot 1. So the aerial photograph shows the same kind of the break in density of development across the wider area and the existing building lines. So the next one is the proposed site layout. So this again shows that plot 1 will be roughly in line with number 21, which is that building here, whereas plot 2 would sit behind this. It also shows the relatively small amount of private garden ground that would serve plot 1. And this site layout further demonstrates that due to the amount of garden ground available for each dwelling and the separating distance between the two properties, they do not appear as dwellings set in large gardens, which is the character of the surrounding area, but they would appear squeezed into the site, and it would thus be an overdevelopment of the site, as it would not take sufficient consideration of the surrounding site context. So the next slide shows the proposed elevations for plot 1. So the proposal is for a 3-storey building with an overall height of 9.5 meters. The ground will be raised to the front. So as you can see in that section probably best, that is the north elevation facing out onto North Deeside Road. And this area of ground will be raised. So when you see it from North Deeside Road, you would just see the top 2 stories. So going to the next one. These are the proposed elevations for plot 2, showing the general form of the building. The east elevation is that one, would be the one facing out onto North South Avenue. And the north elevation would face onto plot 1. And again, it kind of emphasizes the large amount of development on the site, because the need for these high level windows, because there's not enough distance between the two properties to have to ensure sufficient privacy otherwise. So the next slide shows a section and street elevation with plot 1 in relation to the property at 21 South Avenue. South Avenue is a, number 21 is a 1.5-storey dwelling with a sloping roof. And this dwelling is set down from North Deeside Road, and you can only see part of the roof from North Deeside Road, which is similar to other dwellings when you go further down that road. And this drawing shows that the proposed will be significantly more prominent when viewed from North Deeside Road, and it also shows the overbearing and dominating impact on the proposed of the proposed building on the neighbouring property. So the next slide is another street elevation and section, but now from South Avenue. Again, the prominent position of the building on the corner of North Deeside Road and South Avenue will be visible. And you can see it would be quite a lot larger than anything else that's further to the west. And the last drawing shows sections, shows the view from the neighbouring property at 21 South Avenue, and it shows the large elevation that will be immediately adjacent to this smaller property. And then finally, here are two views just showing North Deeside Road is here, South Avenue is here, and that is the cleared plot as it is at the moment, with the neighbouring property at 21 South Avenue down there and a little bit further nearer. So in conclusion, the planning considerations and the impacts arising from this proposal are not materially different to the previous refused planning application, and that its general physical characteristics of layout, scale and form are similar. This proposal would be harmful to the character and amenity of the area. It will be an overdevelopment of the site, and it would have an adverse impact on the neighbouring residents at 21 South Avenue. It is therefore recommended that the committee refuses this application for the reasons set out in the agenda papers. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Councillor Copeland.
Thank you, convener. Just want to clarify something. Where is the access for plot 1 and the access for plot 2?
The access from plot 1 is coming off North Deeside Road, so roughly where my cursor is at the moment. So it'll be as far away from South Avenue as it can be, but nearest the boundary with number 21. Whereas the access onto for plot 2 is from South Avenue, so it's kind of to the north elevation. I can just go back down to the site layout. So here's North Deeside Road and the access into plot 1, and South Avenue with the access into plot 2.
Right, thank you very much.
Are there any further? Yeah, Councillor Blake.
Thank you, convener. So my understanding is that only 2 of the stories will be visible from North Deeside Road, which is very similar to Cults Court, which will be next door. Is that correct?
Yes.
Will it be a similar height to Cults Court, which is the flats next door?
Yes. Yeah.
And can I ask another question? And across the road from this site, there are also the retirement flats.
Mm-hmm.
Will
Yes,
will it be a similar height to those as well?
retirement flats are set further back. I think there might be more stories, but they're much further down, so they're not quite as apparent in North Deeside Road.
Are there any questions online on Teams? No, I do have one. Looking at the plans, how close is this building to number 21? And I'll ask us an additional question on the back of that is, all 3 floors will be facing onto the side of number 21.
Yes, the distance between the west elevation of this property and the east elevation of number 21 is just under 3 meters. So I measured it as 2.7 meters, and the most of it, the vast majority of the building will be immediately adjacent to 21 South Avenue, with a little portion sticking out.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Nope. Thank you. I'm actually minded to uphold the officer's recommendations. Is anyone else otherwise minded? No. Are we all in agreement then?
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the report, and the application is refused. Moving on, we now come to the date of the next meeting, which will be the 25th of August 2022. And I thank everyone, both in the chamber and at home on Teams, for the forbearance with the technical issues this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, convener.
Thank you.
Thank you.